Going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fight Out podcast. Wanted to jump on to discuss the lightweight division in the UFC. So I've been planning this video for a while, and I've kind of been waiting on news, to be honest, on who's next, what's going on, stuff like that. I've seen like the stuff, the stuff that Illia tweeted, like just started camp. Obviously Ariel's show was talking about it, so I thought today might be a good day to actually have a little chat about it because, to be honest, the UFC lightweight division is in a mess or could be in a mess depending on what they've got lined up next. Now, the UFC have not really said anything. Ilya is saying they promised him a title shot. There's no news on Islam. Islam's eyeing up welterweight, all of that kind of stuff. So the main problem in that division right now is the champion's not booked and there's no clear next title fight. In line. Ilya thinks it's him. He put out yesterday on a tweet, or it might have even been early hours this morning. Camp just started. He said he's not fighting unless it's for the title. A lot of people are saying, that's right. A lot of people are saying, no, that's bollocks. You need to work your way up. I think that's kind of the angle that Khabib is taking. Islam hasn't really said goose to a goose. To be fair, he said absolutely fuck all on the matter. But I'm trying to figure out what is going next in what you could argue is the most stacked division in the UFC. So you've got Islam on ice. You've got Ilya coming into the division. Obviously, you've got Dustin Poirier in there, who's going for his last fight that everyone believes is Max Holloway. So Max and Dustin are ranked 4 and 5. So let's assume that that's correct, 4 and 5. But that's the question. Gaethje's just fought and won against Fadiev. He's talking for a title shot. Above Gaethje, you've got Charles Oliveira, who's also asking for a title shot. Above Charles Oliveira, you've got Arman Sarukian that should have fought for a title and pulled out, and none of them are booked. Charles and Arman have fought. Gaethje and Arman haven't. Would you argue Gaethje versus Arman is a logical, number one contender spot, if you will, even though Arman is the number one contender? You just don't know. It's a complete mess. Outside of that, obviously, you've got Paddy now who's entered the top 10, who is one of the biggest stars in that division. He could be one fight away from a title shot if he gets a big win against any of the top 5. Like I've just said, Max and Dustin are booked. Dustin's already shut that down, saying, I've already got my retirement fight. It leaves Gaethje, Charles, and Arman for Paddy for what he wants. Dan Hooker is ranked number 6, which would be a banger of a fight, but I don't know if it puts either of them in a title picture. Michael Chandler got a title fight off fighting Dan Hooker, but that was a few years ago. Dan Hooker, was meant to fight Gaethje. The winner was going to get a title shot, but is the Paddy fight the same fight where it's going to get a title again? Don't know. And then outside of it all, you've got Ilya to come in. Like it is a mess. And obviously, this is not my job or anyone's job to try and figure it out. But you'd always feel like there's next steps in the divisions. Obviously, Bilal's booked to fight. DDP was meant to be fighting Kamzat, but it looks like he's injured. And Kalaev and Alex are basically, the next fight there. Heavyweight's a mess, the same as lightweight. Then you've got, bantamweight, that fight scheduled. Featherweight have just fought. And then you've got flyweight, which is looking like they're going to be booking that soon. And then with the women's division, it's kind of similar. Like you can kind of see who the next contenders are, who's coming up and stuff. Lightweight and heavyweight are just two in the UFC that are absolute mess. And the two of the biggest stars in the UFC right now, you could argue, are in those divisions. So the biggest star, obviously Connor's not in the UFC, well, not fighting in the UFC right now. Excluding him, your biggest star is John Jones. Your biggest star is arguably Islam. Alex Pereira obviously being the exception here at light heavyweight. Outside of that, you've got Charles, who's definitely up there. Gaethje's a fan favourite. Dustin's a fan favourite. Vault being a featherweight is also another exception, come to think of it. But most of the big stars are in those divisions. Tom Aspinall, obviously, a heavyweight as well. And to hold them up, for me, is just bizarre by the UFC. Now I'm hoping to put this video out, and then tomorrow they literally release a fight. I'm literally hoping to be proved wrong because I want to see the lightweight division active. I want to see who's next. I want to see, Dustin's retirement fight announced. Get excited for that. Imagine it's not Max Holloway though, and it's a curveball by the UFC, and it's a Justin Gaethje, another rematch, because Dustin's beat Holloway twice. Don't forget. Justin Gaethje has fought recent, March time, but it didn't look too banged up, so maybe he could fight come the summertime. which is what Dustin's kind of aiming up for. But outside of that, it's unclear to see what's going on. Now, if Illia is coming back for a title shot, I don't know if that means he's fighting Islam or not. Obviously, Illia gave up his belt, or the UFC made him give up his belt. Islam looks like he's waiting to see what happens with Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena next month in terms of he wants to move up to welterweight, but for whatever reason, Islam and Bilal won't fight each other. And the reason why I know the reason, they sign together and stuff like that, but they're not actually in the same gym or like that. They've got the same manager, but that doesn't really mean anything. So I kind of get it, I kind of don't why they don't want to fight each other. But even if Islam moves up, let's say Jack wins, Islam moves up and fights Jack, and let's say Islam wins, surely Bilal's next in line at that point anyway. So it's kind of a bit bizarre that that's happening. It's also bizarre that Dana is now he hasn't said anything on it, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's usually quite vocal. Remember Rabinaldo, stuff like that, where he's come out and said that's bollocks basically. You're at the back of the queue now, you're not fighting for the title. I know this is kind of different because Islam's already got a title, so you can't be back at the queue if you've got one, but he can come out and say, look, Islam's still got work to do at 55. If he doesn't want to fight Bilal, he's not moving up to 170 at all, which is kind of what you would expect of Dana. But other than that, there's no clear role here. Now, what I would like to see next, and let me know if you'd agree with me in the comments, is I would like to see Islam versus Illia, because I feel like Illia's coming to the division for a reason, and he has been promised a title shot. And to be fair, that's a massive, massive fight. Outside of Tom and John, I can't think of a bigger fight off the top of my head that I'd like to see. I think it's bigger than Islam versus Bilal for one. I do like DDP versus Hamzat. That's actually one of my favourite fights that I want to see. I want to see, finally, can Hamzat actually do what we all thought he was going to do when he come on to Fight Island and fought twice in 10 days? Can he come on and just blitz the division and get the champ? But outside of Tom and John, for me, the biggest fight you can make is Islam versus Illia. I would also like to see Poirier's retirement fight announced. I think it's going to be Max, so I'm just going to take it as that. I'd probably prefer Justin Gaethje, to be honest with you, because Dustin's beat Max twice. I know Max beat Gaethje, but Gaethje and Poirier are 1-1, and I think it kind of makes sense to settle that trilogy. I'd love to see Paddy against Charles. Obviously, you all know I love Paddy. I'd love to see Paddy versus Charles, and then that only leaves Arman not matched up then in that top five. Depending on, actually, sorry, no, correct. I'm wrong there. If you put on Poirier against Gaethje, it leaves Holloway open, and you could do Holloway versus Arman for a number one contender spot. Holloway's coming in at number 4, so obviously the UFC are mean business putting him in there. Coming off a win over Gaethje, of course, and then he got beat at featherweight by Illia. So there's definitely interesting stuff going on if they get matched up. Leave Gamrot on the side for now, and also Dan Hooker, but they could fight one of the winners of any of them fights and prepare them. So if I was UFC matchmakers, that's what I'd be doing. Illia versus Islam. I'd be doing Dustin versus Gaethje. I'd be doing Charles versus Paddy. And I'd be doing Max versus Arman Sarukian to get the division moving. What do you think of them fights? You think the job's easier making fight, or you think I've nailed it? Do you agree with me? Let me know down in the comments below. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.